Hello everyone, I'm here with a story from our Miracles Do Happen book. These are true stories. People send them about a miracle that's happened in their life. This one is by Lorraine Echevarra Hendricks, and it is called Journey to Lourdes. Alright. I was only 14 years old, but I was sure I was going to die. As a high school freshman, I was a cheerleader, played varsity softball, and was involved in other activities. When I first came down with the flu, it didn't seem like a big deal, but after a week or two, I still had severe headaches, dizziness, violent nausea, and excruciating pains. Hospitalized, I was given a battery of tests that were inconclusive. Mom and Dad consulted specialists. None could find out what was wrong. One put me in traction to relieve my neck pains. It didn't help. Another thought my illness might be all in my head, but tests indicated it wasn't. I developed kidney problems, and pain kept me awake. My schoolmates and people all over the area prayed for me. That meant a lot, but I couldn't imagine ever feeling well again. One afternoon, Mom placed a cool hand on my hot forehead and said, "Lorraine, we're going to take you to Lourdes." "Is it farther than Pittsburgh?" I asked. She smiled, just a little bit. Mom explained that Lourdes was a small city in southwestern France. There in 1858, a young peasant girl, now known as Saint Bernadette, had seen the vision of the Virgin Mary 18 times over a 5-month period. Near the grotto where the Virgin Mary appeared, muddy water had trickled from under a huge rock. When Mary instructed Bernadette to drink and wash in the spring, clear sparkling water gushed forth. Since then, countless thousands have gone to Lourdes, hoping the Lord will heal them by those same miraculous waters. Healing wasn't on my mind that March day when we left for France. I was so sick I wanted to die. At our Paris stopover, I was wheeled to the airport dispensary where a doctor gave me a shot that helped me sleep. When we arrived, I was wheeled to a taxi, but the driver looked at me and wanted to take us to the hospital. No, the grotto, Mom insisted. Finally, we arrived at the front gates of the shrine, but I was too ill to go on. The nuns brought me to the infirmary, where I collapsed on a bed. A young American volunteer named Louise sat with me. As she read to me from her Bible, I fell asleep. Suddenly, standing alongside my bed, looking down at my body, Louise still sat reading in a gentle voice, unaware of my other presence. The next thing I know, I was outside moving with the freedom and joy I had never known before. What was happening? I felt no anxiety, only a bliss that was so real as life, and definitely it was not a dream. Somehow I became aware of a lady in a long flowing gown beside me, gliding with me as I continued on my journey. I couldn't see her face because a hood hung over her head, but she exuded a love that transcended anything I had ever experienced. There was no talk, just intuitive communication back and forth in your mind. You can hear each other. We floated about 5 feet above the ground, moving over a sweeping green meadow sprinkled with purple violets. My eyes were drawn to a lone tree with branches spread like loving arms. "You must go back now," the lady said. "I don't want to go back," I pleaded. The body you left is dying. You must go back to prove to others that God exists." The next thing I knew, I was back in my body. I opened my eyes and looked into the anxious faces of Mom and Dad. "We've been trying to wake you," Mom said, "but you weren't responding." "It's time to go to the baths," Dad said. My limbs were as weak as ever. and I felt as nauseated and sick as I had before. My parents wheeled my chair outside, and we walked with Lourdes through the grounds of the shrine. There before my eyes stretched the same beautiful green field, scattered with purple flowers, and in the distance stood the majestic lone tree with its sheltering branches. It's the tree on which Saint Bernadette leaned when she had her last apparition, Louise explained. We passed the rocky grotto and reached a building housing the baths. Inside were separate areas for men, women, and children. A moistness hung in the air, like that over a mountain brook in the morning. I was undressed and a blue cape was wrapped around my body. Then some women helped me to a long, wide marble tub full of the Lourdes water. My mother knelt by my wheelchair and prayed. The women eased me down 2 steps into the knee-deep water, where I was led to the statue of the Blessed Mother. Someone poured water on my head. When I was helped out of the water, to my surprise, I was already dry. "Oh, yes," one of the women said, "that's one of the little miracles of Lourdes." I was bundled in the wheelchair, feeling as bad as ever. The nuns gave the taxi driver permission to drive in and pick us up for our return trip to the hotel. At the hotel, I got into bed and sank into a deep sleep. Hours must have passed. Slowly I woke. I moved my legs, stretched my arms. I sat up in disbelief. There was no pain. I felt strong. I put my feet on the floor. I could walk. I stepped to the bathroom mirror. My eyes were shining and my cheeks were rosy. I was no longer trapped inside an unhealthy body. I was whole again. Mom and Dad ran in. We all cried with joy and laughed. Later that day, I walked through the gates of Lourdes once again. Louise and several of the sisters who had been with me that day before were stunned. They told me they had feared I would not make it through the night. And now here I was, full of life. As I entered the shrine's area, I knelt before the altar and thanked God for my healing and for the beautiful lady I had met at Lourdes. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night.